And noticing also, of course, around the eyebrows, making sure that you're not frowning, holding tightness through the forehead. And then we just begin to observe the breathing in the body. And what we're really looking for at this beginning part of class is just a shift in our minds. For most of the day, we focus on everything going on around us. We focus on the external. But for yoga, we really want to pinpoint the consciousness within. We want to really observe and notice what's happening in our own bodies. And by being conscious of our own bodies and being conscious of our breath as it moves in and out of our bodies, this is how we begin to calm and quiet our minds. So observing the breath to begin with, and then slowly beginning to shift it into a more yoga style of breathing, a little fuller and deeper, down into the belly, allowing the belly to rise as you inhale and fall as you exhale. Slowing that breath as much as you can, filling up with as much breath as you can. And then I'm going to ask you to start to pinpoint where your breath sits in the body this evening. And this is something that we develop over time in the yoga class, the idea of the three-part breath. And in the three-part breath, you're going to try and identify and isolate the breath into three different breathing zones, if you like, three regions of your breathing body. And the first is the belly. So if you just rest your hands on your belly with the fingertips lightly touching, it's just slightly below your belly button. So maybe your index finger rests on your belly button. And you want to try and pinpoint the breath into this region, so that as you inhale, the hands lift and maybe slightly separate, and as you exhale, they gently come back together. And through this, we're really targeting breath into the belly. And belly breathing is what we do when we feel a bit stressed, or we're feeling strong emotions that we can't manage very well. And the moment we start to really focus on belly breathing, it just allows some of those emotions, some of that stress to be released by the body. Then moving the hands up a little bit to the rib cage, you're almost holding the side ribs here, so just cupping the sides just above your waist of your body. And I want you to imagine that you're breathing outwards instead of upwards. So you're widening with each inhale, getting wider. Almost like you're wearing a very tight corset that you're trying to burst by your breath, burst by breathing in. So you're pressing the ribs outwards to the sides. And this is our rib cage breath, and we use this in quite a lot of poses where the belly is involved in the posture, compromised by the pose that you're in, such as a twist or maybe a deep back bend. And of course, in any side stretching or side bending poses, we really feel the length into the side ribs. And then finally, we'll shift the hands up to the chest, you're going to have the hands above the breast with the fingertips lightly touching the collarbones. And we're now going to breathe into the hands in this upper region, allowing the chest to fill and rise as you inhale and to fall as you exhale. And then just release the hands and just allow the body a moment to breathe in its own natural state. So letting go of all conscious breath, just allowing the body to breathe in its own way. And in the next week or two, we'll begin to develop the idea of three-part breath when we breathe into each area on each inhale and exhale. But for now, let's hug the knees into the chest. We'll begin to warm up the body with some classic stretches. Hugging the knees in, just rocking gently from side to side. Let's take the arms wide and drop both knees to the right, turning the head to the left, stretching out through the fingertips. Just taking a moment to breathe. And then pulling your belly button in towards your spine, lift the knees up and over the other way, making sure that those belly muscles are engaged to support your lower back as you do so. And then we'll bring the knees back up again, and we'll place the feet flat to the floor, about a hip's width distance between the feet. And we'll cross the right ankle over the left knee and gently thread the hands through, reaching for the left knee. You're going to pull the left knee into the chest. And as you do so, you can just rock a little from side to side, opening into the hip and the buttock area. Keep squeezing the right knee away from you, finding the breath in that stretch. And then we'll place the left foot down and extend the right leg up to the ceiling. And trying to get the right leg as straight as possible. You may only be holding the calf or the ankle, but really trying to straighten into the back of the knee and press the heel up towards the ceiling. And then just find that conscious breath again, allowing you to be very present in the pose and very aware of how the stretch is opening or feeling in your body. Good, let's release that. And we're going to cross the left ankle over the right knee. Threading the arms once again between the legs. And then just pulling the right knee in, squeezing the left knee away. Just a gentle rock from side to side to encourage opening in the hip and glute. And then we'll place the right foot down and extend the left leg up, holding as high up the leg as you can, and just stretching into the back of the leg, into the hamstring. Finding that breath again to help you. And let's release. Now hug the knees in once again, and then rolling to the side, gently press yourself up to sitting. We'll swing the legs around and taking your knees under your hips and your wrists under your shoulders, we'll come to full point kneeling. And we'll just take a few breaths in cat-cow. So dropping your belly down and lifting your chin up, you'll take your inhale into cow. As you exhale, around the spine, press the mat away, chin to chest, really trying to arch into that upper back. And then again, dropping the belly down, lifting the chin, shoulders away from the ears, and exhaling. You're trying to make the inhale and the exhale of exact duration and also synchronized perfectly with the movement. So no moment where you're holding the breath or where you're finished moving. And then let's just drop the hips back to child's pose, reaching your fingers away to stretch out into your shoulders and just sinking down head to floor. If you've got your fingers stretched out in front, you should feel a stretch also through the arms and shoulders, as well as into the lower back, perhaps. And just settle back into your breathing here in child's pose. It's a really good place to reset the body, but also to reset your mind. Just remind yourself to tune into how the body's feeling and also to notice and observe your conscious breathing. From here, we'll move to downward facing dog. So we're going to place the hands flat, tuck the toes, and push the hips up to the ceiling. And here in downward facing dog, we'll just bend one knee at a time and press the opposite heel into the floor, just walking out the dog. And as you walk out the dog, beginning to stretch out some of the tightness through the Achilles tendons at the back of the ankle, into the calf muscle, into the backs of the knees, and just allowing the breath to help lengthen those muscles. Good. We'll take a lunge for a hip flexor stretch. So let's drop both knees to the floor now. And then step the right foot right to the front of the mat and land between the hands. So just take a moment to check your alignment here. You want to be at a right angle in the front knee so that your ankle is under your knee, but you also want the back knee far enough away that your hips can sink to the floor. You don't want to be too upright, so you want to be able to sink the hips down. And if you can't, just scoot your back knee away from you a little further. And then just focus on releasing the hips down to the floor. You should feel the stretch here at the front of the left hip. And then just focusing on the breath and using that exhale just to soften out any tightness there. And then we'll add a twist into this pose. So just bearing some weight into the left hand. And we'll take the right fingertips up. And this twist is really coming from the shoulders, not from the arm or the hand. So really lift up and out of your bottom shoulder and attempt to find the rotation from the shoulder girdle. Now, observing that conscious breath once again, switching back into full breaths. Good, release. Let's step it back to downward facing dog. Tuck the toes under, push the hips up high, and gently just walk out your dog, pressing the heels down, experiencing length into the limbs. And then we're going to step that left foot forward. So dropping both knees first, and then just walk that left foot through. You can use your hands to hoik it forwards if you need to. And then again, make sure that the right knee is far enough away from you that you can really get some sink through the hips and you're feeling the stretch through that right hip flexor. Just allowing the breath to loosen out this tightness. And then placing the weight down into the right hand, we'll lift up and out of the right shoulder as we extend the left arm up. So that revolving coming from the shoulders, no collapsing into the arm. Lift and open the chest and breathe. And then we'll take both hands to the floor. Let's step the back foot in. And we'll just hang in a forward bend, grabbing a hold of the elbows. You can swing a little from side to side, just feeling that stretch through the hamstrings, but also through the whole of the spine as the weight of the head and arms sort of pull your spine long, and you'll feel the whole back of the body. Then release the hands, pull your belly button in and soften your knees into a slight bend, and then we'll roll up, bone by bone through the spine, rolling the shoulders back. Just take a moment to interlace the hands and push the knuckles away from you to lift and open into the chest. And then we'll round the back as we press the palms away. Good, and then just take a little shake out, grab a drink if you need one. Sorry, I'm going to get it sorted. I can actually see my reflection now that it's dark, so I can see that my head is not being cut off, which is progress, because I've just done an entire warm-up where you couldn't see me at all. So that's good. Never mind. Right, so we're going to take a slow sun salutation. We're just working into the hips. And really with this first sun salutation, I want you to just feel a bit of the flow, because it's the only part of this class where we really flow a little bit. And by flow, what I'm talking about is just moving with your breath. So instead of just moving and at the same time breathing, you're actually trying to make the breath and the movement be in partnership with each other. So ideally, the breath lasts as long as that particular movement. If you find that I'm going too slow for your breathing, I'd much rather you take extra breaths than pass out. So please feel free to do that. But the idea over time is that we get better at controlling our breath, and that as we practice more and more yoga, our lung capacity or ability to breathe fuller improves. And so over time you can do longer moves on a single breath, and that's really what we want, because by observing and really focusing on that breath, that's what keeps our meditation solid. That's what keeps our mind in the room, because the moment you start thinking about something outside of that door, you won't be able to manage your breath anymore. So that's how you know whether you're staying present, is because the breath is either just doing its own thing. Fortunately, we don't stop breathing when we stop thinking about the breath. That would be a disaster. The body's very good at breathing on its own, but in yoga, we don't want it to be doing that. So let's just try and stay present to the breath. Don't worry too much about the poses, especially if you're new to this class. That will come with time, and the body will also know where it wants to be. Your body won't want to look like me in the poses, because your body won't be ready for that necessarily. I've been doing this a long time. So you're not trying to obtain the perfect posture. You're listening into your body and allowing it to tell you where it wants to go. And then we use the breath to help that. So that's all you need to think about, is just how you need to breathe. So with that in mind, let's take a couple of deep conscious breaths just to sort of set us up and to remind the body that we're taking control of the breath now. And then as we inhale, we'll float those arms up, As we exhale, we'll fold and let the exhale last all the way till the earth. Then we'll step the right leg back, we'll drop the knee, and we'll take the inhale all the way to the fingertips touching, and then we'll exhale all the way, hands to floor. We'll inhale and we'll step to plank. Now, take an extra breath or two as I explain plank. You can always drop your knees and modify your plank, or you can make your plank a bit stronger but with the knees lifted. But whichever option you're in, try and keep your hips low, really low. A bit more Carolyn and a bit more Bridget. Keep the hips down a little bit. There you go. Then push forwards through the toes. We'll drop the knees and try and come down between your hands. So don't go back to your elbows. Come down between your hands. Let your hips hit the ground first and then the rest of you. Good. Now, squeezing the elbows in at the sides, we'll take a baby cobra. Now, I don't want any weight in the hands here. So your back strength is keeping you lifted, not your hands. And then we'll push back and we'll reset in child's pose. So child's pose is the place we come to just remind ourselves about our breath, to just reset that conscious state, that conscious awareness of our bodies, and to just allow the body a moment to recover. And then tucking the toes, we'll push up into down dog. And we're going to take a pulse in our downward facing dog. So as you inhale, you lift up onto the toes. As you exhale, you squeeze the heels down. 2 more. Inhale, rise up onto the toes. Exhale, squeezing down. 1 more time. Good. And then looking forwards, we're going to drop the knees down to the floor and step that right foot back between the hands. And then we'll come back to our breath flow. Inhale the arms all the way to touch. Exhale all the way down. Inhale, step forwards the feet. Exhale, slide into a forward fold. Inhale, roll up through your spine all the way to fingers touch. And exhale, we finish here. Good. Let's take the left side. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, diving all the way down. Stepping the left leg back, inhale, the arms come up. This time we're going to put a little pulse into our lunge. We exhale and deepen it. Inhale, we lift up. Exhale, we go deeper. We're going to take 1 more. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, the hands come down. Inhale, step to plank or modified plank. Exhale where you are. Inhale here, exhale, drop the knees and lower onto the belly. Inhale into a cobra, and exhale, reset the body and breath. Good, tucking the toes under, we'll move to downward facing dog. And we'll take that pulse. Inhale, rise up onto your toes. Exhale, squeeze your heels down. 2 more. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, squeeze down. 1 more time. And then we'll just drop the knees to the floor. And we'll walk that left foot through between the hands. And we'll find our flow. Inhale, rising up. Exhale, pulsing down. 2 more. Inhale, up. Exhale, find that pulse. 1 more time. And we'll release the hands, come down. Good. Let's step the back foot forwards as you inhale. Exhale, slide into the forward bend. Inhale, roll up through the spine, arms go up. Exhale, we finish. Now just observe your breathing for a couple of breaths here. And just notice how the body feels when it moves like that in conjunction with your breath rather than at odds with the breath. Good. And then we'll shake it out. We're going to move on to some standing poses. So less of the flow now, so less of the vinyasa. Vinyasa is breath and movement synchronized. So we're not so worried about synchronizing breath and movement anymore. We're going to be holding poses for a few breaths. but we want to remain conscious of the breath. So you're not just going to breathe and forget about the breath. It's just we're not necessarily lasting one breath per move. So we're going to come to the front of the mat once again. We'll inhale the arms back up overhead. Is your mat bothering you? Is it? Oh, right. Okay. If it's it looks a bit thick, it looks more like a Pilates mat. Yeah, you might want to get something a bit. I have plenty to borrow, but at the moment I'm not allowed to lend them out, so sorry. Yeah. Yeah, it's a Pilates mat. It's lovely when you're sort of kneeling, but you'll want a proper sticky mat, at least on top of it, even if, yeah, okay. But you can pick them up really cheap, less than £10. Yeah, okay. Will you be all right, though? I don't know. See how it feels on the balances. Okay, so we're going to inhale the arms up, and we're going to take a half moon side bend. So the first one, we're going to keep both hands up, which makes it a bit more challenging. And as you go over, press through your left foot, because that will be your foundation, to reach away through the left fingers. And then we'll inhale up, and we'll go the other way. So again, pressing through the right foot now, as you lengthen out through the right fingertips. Remember how we talked about ribcage breathing? This is a classic example of breathing into the ribs. We'll come back up as we inhale, and then we'll exhale, we'll dive down to the floor. We're going to step the right leg back, but this time we're going to keep the knee off the floor. So we're going to sink down into a runner's lunge. Preferably the knee is really straight, so you can really pick up and engage the back knee. Now by doing so, you'll feel the quadricep really working strong, and if that feels too much for you, you can soften the back knee a little bit. But if you can, I'd like you to really pick it up and engage that quadricep almost till it aches, because then you know the quadricep's working really strongly. Now, if you're dumping down onto your front thigh with your torso, I want you now to lift off your front thigh and then see if you can pick your belly off your thigh. Is there a small gap between belly and thigh? I won't ask too strongly about that, but just see if you can move towards that. And then we're going to place the right palm down and lift the left hand up into a twist. So as I said in the warm-up, we really want to not collapse into that lower shoulder. So pulling up and out of your right shoulder, stretching up through the left hand. Take one more breath. Great, and then we'll bring both hands down to the floor, and we're just going to walk the hands out to the side. And as you go, I want you to turn your toes in and your heels out slightly so that your feet are parallel with your mat. And then the first one, we'll just take a nice forward bend. You can, if you've got the flexibility, you can get your palms to the floor. If that's not you, stay up on your fingertips. And if you've got the flexibility, walk the hands back a little bit and then begin to allow the head to fall to the floor. So just be relaxed through the head and neck and allow gravity to begin to stretch you out in this posture. But we're focusing on our breath. So allow the breath to be part of this pose. Don't just allow it to wander off. And breathing fully, we use the exhale to let go of tightness and resistance in those inner groins, hips, and backs of the legs. Good. We're going to add a twist in here. So place the right hand flat and lift the left arm up towards the sky, and once again you're getting that action of lifting out of the lower shoulder, rotating the shoulder girdle round. And then we'll switch sides. And then releasing, we're going to turn back towards the front foot, coming back to your lunge. And we'll add on from here. So stepping back to plank or modified plank, taking a breath there, just feel the strength in the core. You can always lower your knees if you need to. That's nice, good. Drop the knees and lower onto your belly. Inhale up into your little cobra, and then we'll push back into child's pose and just let the body reset for a moment. And then we'll tuck the toes under and move to downward facing dog. add that pulse into our dog. Inhale, rising up onto the toes. Exhale, squeezing the heels away. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, squeezing down. Let's take one more. And then we will just settle in down dog for an extra breath, just finding stillness in the pose. And then slowly drop your knees down onto your mat and stepping that right foot forwards, back between the hands. We're going to take a twist. Actually, no, we'll come up to our lunge once again here. But we're in a low lunge, back knee on the floor. We'll just enjoy that stretch for one more breath. And then release. Good. Let's step the back foot forwards. And take a more active forward bend this time, really catching a hold of your shins or your ankles. Start to pull with your arms to try and get your head closer to your knees and to sit your chest on your thighs. And breathing into the backs of the hamstrings. Then release and roll up through your spine with your breath helping you as you rise, inhaling and exhaling the hands. Coming back to the heart, just reset your breathing. And let's take the other side. We're going to inhale the arms up. We're going to take that side bend again, but this time lower the bottom arm as you stretch over. Now this will allow you probably to get a little deeper. You won't have so much weight with both arms up, taking you into the side bend. But you still want to get that idea of breathing into the ribs and lengthening into the waist. The breath, not too shallow or panty, but conscious and under your control. And then we'll gently come up and we'll switch to the other side, lifting up and over rather than collapsing through the right waist, getting that idea of length through both sides and breath through the ribs. And then inhaling, coming back up. Exhale, diving down to the floor. Let's step the left leg back, but keep the knee lifted into our runner's lunge. So again, if you want to work a bit harder, a bit more strongly in the legs, you'll really pick up the back knee and get it as straight as you can, and then fire out through the back heel. You'll really feel a lot of muscles engaged now, and this is how we build strength, is by really engaging into our leg muscles. Now, picking the chest off the thigh, lift your belly off your thigh, find that strength through the core, and then we'll ground down through the left hand and lift up through the right, finding that twist as you lift up and out of the shoulder, rotating through the heart. Good, let's bring both hands to the floor and step it back. Oh no, sorry, we walk to the side. Walk the hands out. This time you're going to leave your toes turning out and your heels turning in. And then bring both hands to your knees and slowly come up. Don't rush it, you don't want to get dizzy. And we're going to stay in our goddess squat. So you're sitting down low, and I want you to press the outside edges of your feet down into the mat so that you're not tempted to collapse into your inner arches or allow your knees to drop in. You're pressing your knees back, pressing the outside edge of your foot down, and pushing your inner groin slightly forwards. Now lift your chest, shoulders away from the ears. It's a strong goddess pose. And then we'll lift the arms up, we'll add them into the goddess. And I bet you feel pretty powerful. I always feel very powerful in this pose. My superwoman pose. When the kids are really annoying me, I stand like this and they all run. Good, let's take a couple more breaths. And then we'll put a pulse in here. So straighten the knees, bring the hands to the heart. And then inhale, lift the arms up. And bend back down into goddess. Can you get a little deeper into it now that the legs are warming up a bit? Good. And then we'll straighten the legs, bring the hands to the heart. And then exhale, bend a little deeper as you sweep the arms up. Let's take one more. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, sweep up. Now into your deepest goddess posture. Hold it there for a breath. Great. And then gently come up, and we're going to turn the heels out, get the feet parallel, and this time into our forward bend, we'll slide down the outside edges of our legs. You may get to your ankle, you may get to your feet. Catch hold of whatever you can reach, and then encourage everything to lengthen as you fold forwards a little more. Find your breath. And then finally, we'll have a little go at Malasana. It is a challenging pose if you're tight in your lower backs, ankles, or hips, but you're just going to heel toe your feet in, and then you're going to end up in a small goddess pose, so your heels in and your toes out. And ideally, you're going to sit back, hips to the floor. If your heels need to lift, that's okay. It just means you've got tight ankles. If you don't want to go down that far, your knees are bothering you, you can just stay in a squat. If you can get down with heels up or down, you may need to keep your hands on the floor, or you might possibly be able to come to full Malasana, hands at the heart, knees pressing out. So this may feel really challenging into some areas, but that will give you a really good idea of where you've got tightness. And for a lot of people, it's these ligaments in the ankles, the shins, and just getting the hips down as well. So take a couple more breaths there. It took me a lot of practice to get into Malasana, many years of working through it. And then we'll take the hands down, and we'll turn back to the front foot, stepping to plank. Drop the knees, lower to the floor. Inhale, take your cobra, rolling the shoulders back, and settle into child's pose. Taking a couple of breaths there. Just going to grab my drink. So we're going to take pigeon pose now, and we're going to set it up from down dog. So tucking the toes, pushing the hips up. You're going to look forwards between your hands, and you're going to swing your right leg through. You want your right foot to land behind your left hand, and your right knee to land behind your right hand. So you come to the side of your foot, or the top of your foot, there you go, and then that's it. And then try and wriggle your left foot back, 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 back until you feel your hips coming down. Great. Can you, Bridget, take your knee a little bit more that way rather than forwards? That's it. Does that feel okay in your knee? And what you're trying to do is touch your left hip bone to your right heel. That's what you're trying to do. Left hip bone to touch right heel. Then if you can tiptoe your left toes back even further, you may find you can come forwards and rest in sleeping pigeon. So this is really opening into the buttocks and hips. If it feels too much on your knee, please release the pose, come out of it, and I can show you a modification. If you're comfortable in pigeon, then just allow gravity to do the work. That's the great thing about pigeon, is that there's no effort required because we have gravity helping us deepen into it. So all you need to do really is take your attention to your breathing and allow the exhale to take away the tightness. Allow each exhale to help you soften. Is it okay? Okay. Don't worry, this will all feel easier after a couple of weeks. It's hard getting back into it. Okay, one more breath here. And then we'll walk back up to upright, and then you can just tip your weight into your right butt cheek. So just take your right bottom onto the floor. There you go. And then we're going to catch the back foot And start to pull it in towards you, maybe even in towards your left armpit, and you should feel a nice stretch through the front of the thigh of the left leg. And we're going to intensify that stretch a little bit when we work into bow. So you're going to take both legs back and come onto your belly. And we're going to add onto that quadricep stretch with a half bow. So extend your right arm forwards and catch your left foot in your left hand. And now the thing about bow is to make sure you don't lift your foot with your hand, but that you kick your hand up with your foot. So the foot does the kicking and the hand lifts because of the foot, not the other way around. So you kick the foot into the hand and come up. If you want to make it harder, you can lift the right leg and right arm as well. You're thinking back bend on the left side. So allow the kicking of the foot to arch your spine. You'll feel the quad working. Breathe 3, breathe 2, breathe 1. Oh, and release. Good. Just wriggle the hips out from side to side. Release the quadricep muscle. Take a couple of breaths. And then we'll make our way back to downward facing dog. So peel yourself off the floor, tuck the toes under, and press the hips up. Take a moment in down dog just to allow the blood to flow freely back through the legs, maybe pedaling out the heels. And then when you're ready, we're going to swing the left foot into pigeon. So you're going to try and land the top of the left foot behind the right hand, and the left knee behind the left hand. Great. And then tiptoe your right foot back to try and sink your hip towards your heel. Lovely. Great alignment. Good. And then folding forwards and just allow gravity to do its work here. Use your breath and your consciousness of your breath to support that opening in the hip. And then we'll slowly walk back up and then tip the weight onto that left buttock. And then bending the back knee, reaching for the back foot, and maybe pulling in for a quad stretch. And again, just breathe into any resistance or intensity there. And then we want to swing the feet back and come to lie on your belly. This time extending left arm forwards, catching the right foot, and then kicking through the right foot to back bend through the right side. Getting up as high as you can, option to lift the left limbs, and then really kick up high. Breathe. 3, 2, 1. Great. Let's release back down and just wriggle the hips out from side to side. Softening the breath. And then slowly make your way back to downward facing dog, peeling yourself up, tucking the toes under. And again, walk out your dog to just restore that blood flow through all 4 limbs. And then we'll just drop the knees and we'll tuck the toes right under the body, right under the feet, I should say, and then sit back on the heels with those toes nicely tucked under. And if you want to take it a bit deeper, you can start to press your knees forwards a little bit. to increase the stretch. If it already feels intense, then you're doing fine. We're just really stretching out the soles of the feet and the toes, an area that gets really neglected in a lot of stretching routines, but can get very tight and damaged as we age. And we don't think about it much, but just for a moment, picture how much we use the soles of our feet and how different life would be if they didn't work. We sort of take them for granted. Great. And then we'll swing the legs around, and we're going to come back to Baddha Konasana. So this was the opening stretch whilst we were lying in relaxation. And we're going to start with a nice passive Baddha Konasana. So by that, you can have your heels really far away from your pelvis so that your legs make a diamond shape. And then just resting your fingertips down outside your shins, you can begin to use your breath to just tiptoe yourself forwards. But it's quite a passive state. You're just allowing the body to come forwards, the head to rest. And just take a few deep breaths, breathing into the hip opening. And then we'll slowly walk ourselves back up. And now we'll go for a bit of a deeper stretch, bringing the heels closer into the pelvis, taking them as close as you feel comfortable. But don't bring them so close that you end up feeling like this, that you're not sitting upright on your sitting bones, but you've collapsed back to your tailbone. You really want the pelvis to be tilted enough that you can get on your sit bones and you're lifting up and out of your pelvis. So ribs are moving away from the pelvis. Then you're grabbing a hold of the feet, and then you can start to pull yourself forwards. Whereas if you're back on your tailbone, there's no moving forwards to be had. Now, if you've got your elbows resting in your thighs, you can push down on those thighs to create a little bit more opening through the hips and inner groins. And wherever you are, just focus on your breathing into those tight areas of resistance, and just allow the body to soften and the breath to remain conscious. And then we'll slowly come back up to sitting. And we'll straighten the legs out in front. A little bit of core work here. I always put core work into my class because without a strong core, nothing else is going to do well. Nothing else will survive. So once we have a weak core, we start to hurt the shoulder girdle, we hurt the lower back, because instead of the core supporting us, we end up allowing that weight to be borne by areas of the body that aren't supposed to support that much of the body. So the core really needs to be strong to provide protection to those areas, and again, often gets neglected. So I want you to take the feet out in front and just move them far enough away from you where you can still keep the toes flat to the floor. And then we'll lift the arms out in front, and we're just going to take a row. We're going to row your boat. So rowing back as far as you're able without lifting the toes, and then coming back up. Now, when you come back up, make sure it's not like that, yeah? You want to lead with the breastbone so that you're keeping the spine long as you come up. So no collapsing into a C shape. And you're going to just row back, and then lift from here. And we'll try and take 3 more, but if you've only got 1 or 2 in you, that's absolutely fine. And if you feel like you've got more than 3, that's fine too, but maybe start to go a bit deeper so that you almost brush the mat, and that might challenge your abs even more. You can touch your shoulder blades lightly to the mat. And then use the breastbone to lift you. And then we'll just rest the forehead on the knees and just feel that warmth, that work through the abdominals. So that worked really strongly through the upper abs and a little bit into the lower abs, but now we want to work the side, the obliques. So we're going to bring the legs, the arms out again. You're going to rock back, not as far this time, but enough till you feel that connection. And then we're going to put the twist in. Now, if you want to make it a bit harder, you can lift the leg that you're twisting towards. Otherwise, you can just keep the feet on the floor, but make sure that the heart stays lifted. You're not rounding your spine. And if you're not feeling it much, you just rock back more. Let's go for 2 more on each side, if that's available to you. Lifting and lowering the leg is also adding the lower abs into the mix, as you can probably feel. Great. And then, with control, bone by bone by bone, all the way down. Good. And stretching arms and legs away, lengthen into the belly, or you can feel those tight abs. You'll have a 6-pack by Christmas. And then hug the knees in. It's true to say we've all got a 6-pack. It's just some of them are a little more hidden than others. That's fine. Right, let's place the feet flat to the floor, hips width apart, heels quite close into the hips, and hands down by the sides. We're going to just finish with a couple of back bends. So as you exhale, you're going to press the lower back into the floor and then roll up through your spine, pushing your hips up towards the ceiling. As you get to the shoulders, just walk them in towards each other to get up higher. And then really focus on breathing into your rib cage and into your chest as you press your hips towards the ceiling. Really push down through the heels. Let's breathe. 3, 2, and 1. Slowly lower back down, 1 vertebra at a time. And just rock your knees from side to side. And then we'll do that again, rolling up through the spine and coming high on the shoulders, pushing the hips up, taking a couple of breaths there. And then releasing and rolling down. This time we can hug the knees into the chest. Close the eyes. Just take a moment to integrate all of those postures into the body, to notice and observe your breath once again. And we'll take the arms wide, drop the knees to the right, turn the head to the left. And just allow the breath to fill the body and empty the body. And then switching sides. And then making your way to Shavasana, you're just going to be lying on your back. Take your feet wide and allow them just to flop out to the sides. The arms are a little away from the body with the palms up. Shoulders soften away from the ears. Neck is free and soft. Relax your jaw. Relax your buttocks. And then just releasing that conscious breathing now. We're just switching back to a natural state of breath. The body is breathing all by itself now. But to remain conscious, instead of allowing the mind to wander off into thoughts of past or future, I just want you to observe that breath. Observe your breath as it enters. Observe your breath as it leaves. And just take a moment to wonder at the amazing capacity of your body to breathe all by itself every moment, every day.